here's an email from Joshua from Bloomfield, New York. Father, I'm wondering if there are any books on what church life would look like for the average person in the medieval church. If not, are there any good primer books concerning the church during that time period that were geared towards the layperson? It seems like we were taught in school was so skewed against the church when it comes to the medieval times, and I know that's a shame.
Yeah, no, I think that perception is correct. I mean, sometimes some people were taught that they use this term dark ages, right, which is they kind of take for anything after or towards the fall of Rome up until like Descartes. And that's just pretty inaccurate, right? So I think, there's several good books. I think one is things I've come across in my own studies. So one's called The Laity in the Middle Ages, Religious Beliefs and Devotional Practices. It's a collection of writings edited by Daniel Bornstein, Bornstein. That's one. It's also, if you're looking at monastic life, there's a classic book on monastic life called The Love of Learning and the Desire for God by Jean Leclerc, which is OSB, and you'll find that pretty easily online. There's also a good one that I came across. This was when I was an undergrad. It's by his name, William Cook, right? Yeah, William Cook, called The Medieval Worldview: An Introduction. So that'll give you if it puts you in the mindset of someone who is, let's say, near 1250, okay? This period of time, 1000 to, the end of the 13th century, was one of my favorite periods, to study, especially when you get to the end of the death of Thomas Aquinas, that era. That's a beautiful time in history, to study. So I think, you just look at those three books, especially the last one I mentioned, The Medieval Worldview. There's also these books I just came across. I have not read, so I'm not endorsing them, but they look like they're worth checking out. Called this Life in a Medieval Village and Life in a Medieval Castle, Life in a Medieval City. And this, again, these attempts of looking at medieval towns, trying to see what those would have looked like if you were there.
Joshua, if you're kind of a guy who pops in on YouTube, I know that there's a channel I'm very fond of. It's called Modern History TV. And this is a guy who has spent his entire life kind of dedicated to understanding the Middle Ages, as well as what it was like to be a knight and a peasant. And he goes, it's not so much religious, of course, but it goes into what medieval peasants ate, what their workload was like. And of course, therefore, it touches on feast days, right? And it talks about the life of the medieval peasant in light of the church in some of these cases. So that's Modern History TV. That's a great resource for kind of, I would say, dispelling some of the myths that we have about the dark ages that turn out were actually a really exciting time in history.